I will reconvene the school board meeting. Thank you so very much. Items introduced by the superintendent.
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, first of all, Ms. Flowers, thank you very much for opening our school board meeting today in remembrance of September 11th and the sad day, tragic day, but how we're building upon it. And I want to thank the Curlew Hills Memory Garden. As you know, they have a tremendous program that started, and I believe we read portions of the sixth grade essay, but there were many others, essay respondents to that. And I want to just thank them for involving our students into such an event and in our history. As we're moving to a point where none of our students were alive in terms of that event. We all remember exactly where we were, but certainly it's something we need to keep in the forefront of their minds. So thank you to 9/11 Memorial Committee and for their essay contest and involving our students. This Thursday, I want to remind the board that those who can attend, and just thank Mr. Hunt and many others for the countywide, it's always a great celebration, but countywide graduation ceremony, September 13th. This will be held at the Mahaffey Theater, where we have between 180 200 adults, students. Take a little bit longer, but as long as they graduate, it's all we care about. And so it's always a happy momentum occasion with people earning their GED or high school diploma. I also want to recognize our keynote speaker for that Thursday will be Ms. Flowers, and so thank you very much. We have a lot of schools. Dixie Hollins High School, Junior ROTC will be there, the Seminole High School's Chamber Orchestra, and many others. That graduation has become as important as any other graduation, and I want to continue to. We certainly want to keep it that way. I want to. We placed at your seat area the Parents Guide. It's a calendar format. Thank you, Ms. Matway. Lori Matway, for doing this, and I particularly like this edition, not only because it's a tool for the parents to use. There's some major events that are noted in the calendar, but also it showcases the artwork of our students. There's some additional copies if ever needed, but this is in English and in Spanish, and it's distributed throughout our school district. So thank you. I want to also recognize Ridgecrest Elementary School, one of only 21 schools in the nation to receive the Magnet Schools of America recognition. This is a 9-month evaluation that takes place. You have to step up. It's a lot of work. And to Michael Moss, who was the former principal there, certainly say congratulations to him. And to the entire staff, all support staff, everything they do to reach out into the community and to promote not only the Magnet program, but the school within a school program that they have there. They joined the Douglas Jamerson Elementary is the only other Magnet school that's been recognized nationally, so congratulations to them. A week or two ago, I went over to the Buccaneers Foundation and to their camp. They rolled out their largest giveaway, or let's say push out, to the school districts, both in Hillsborough and Pinellas County. 300 elementary and middle schools. There will be impacting over 200,000 students in elementary and middle school through their flag football program, their fitness challenge, and also their reading challenge. So I just want to thank the Bucks Foundation President Darcy Glazer Kasowicz, who was there and spoke with the students, and also the players and many others there. So it was a great event and a great demonstration of how sports or businesses can impact our schools. You know, September's, I always hesitate to say this, September's Attendance Awareness Month, but I say it because every month should be Attendance Awareness Month. But specifically, thanks to the Juvenile Welfare Board and their reach out to Walsingham Elementary School that will be conducting on September 19th a school-wide assembly, and media will be there, and many others, to send the message to all of our schools the importance of attendance. As you know, the Juvenile Welfare Board started with the kindergarten counts and a real push to parents that to ensure that every day counts, and every day to bring your child or ensure your child, that kindergarten student, starts off with great habits. As you know, Dr. Brim shared with you the Parent Academy, and more copies if you need any. My last comment today is more on a business sense, is that, as you know, the appropriations for the Guardian program was 67 point, I may have these figures a little bit, but I'll be in the ballpark, $67.5 million. As you know, recently it was advertised that about $9 million will be used for the Guardian program, some of which and I want to thank the Sheriff Galtieri for applying and filling out that grant proposal and the funding. We will be fully funded for the services, the training, and so forth. But the bottom line is after that $9 million is subtracted, the state still has a $58 million amount that is unused for the Guardian program. I asked that this board allow me to write a letter. You know, the governor has stated that it is his wish that those dollars are distributed equitably throughout the state of Florida. For us, this would be about $800,000. There's been some opposition to that, and I don't quite understand why. I've asked Mr. Smith what our budget looks like in terms of just the Safe Schools allocation, and I know this board knows this, especially because tonight we've been taking a look at the budget. But our total Safe Schools allocation is still $6.1 million, and that was with the 2.9 additional funds from the Marjorie Stoneman Act. We have spent so far with all of the salaries, fringe benefits, new employees, everything that for the Safe Schools that were required, right around $12.2 million. So in essence, we're getting about 6.1, we're spending about 12.2. This scenario is happening throughout the entire state of Florida. We're not an anomaly. Districts are spending more than was allocated originally in Safe School allocation. I would like to propose that, you know, even though the money is non-reoccurring, that it assists the school district's current budget, this year's budget, by whatever resources could be placed, or that money will revert back to the general revenue. It was originally, as the governor said, it was designed for safe schools. It should be used in that fashion. So if the school board agrees with that concept, I would like to draft a letter to the leadership. This is mainly the finance conferencing. It's called the Legislative Budget Commission, the Joint Legislative Budget Commission that will be meeting. And I'd like to express our desire to have that money, as the governor stated, to be equitably shared.
The superintendent did mention this to me when we were talking about the agenda and whatnot for today, and I thought it was most appropriate to bring it forward on today for us to give him the head nod or not. But I think from looking at everybody's head, I think we're moving in that direction. I do have a couple of lights on this topic. Ms. O'Shea and Ms. Cook.
I was just going to say that I would support that. I think we need to get that. I would support it. We need to get a letter out right away before the commission meets. And also, there are a couple districts I've heard that have or are anticipating doing the same thing. And I think it's important when the superintendents speak up there that they understand what the impact is of the decisions they're making in Tallahassee. There was an article the other day saying the incoming leadership of the House and Senate is not in favor of doing this. But right now, the governor is, so I think the time to strike is right now.
Ms. Cook?
I was going to bring this up during my board report because it is something that is going to be discussed at the Board of Directors meeting, which I leave tomorrow to go to for Florida School Boards Association. The comment that has been made is they believe that next year is going to be a small budget year and that they're not going to have the growth in the budgets that they've had in the past for the state of Florida. That's next year's money. This is this year's money, and I think we need to talk about it. Having said that, I would appreciate it if we could take it as a formal vote so that I know how to represent the board when I go to Florida School Boards Association. If the association does not move forward with it, it may come up at the legislative meeting. So if we have done that, then all the representatives will know exactly how to represent Pinellas County.
Is that the form of a motion?
I will make it in form of a motion.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so very much. And then once you get that, if Ms. Eileen Long and I could have a copy, because we will be attending the FSBA Legislative Committee meeting on the 20th this month.
Very good. And tomorrow I do attend, and my final comment is that superintendents are meeting tomorrow over in Tampa. So this will be a major topic of discussion for us too. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the work with the budget. And this is, sometimes we go through it and we don't recognize, and I want to personally say this is a huge deal for our district, and I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
You're welcome. Items introduced by the school board attorney.
Just a couple of quick items. I sent all of you an email, and I know that the press has covered it, but I wanted to, in a public setting, just briefly discuss the Supreme Court's recent ruling on Amendment 8. As you know, the Constitution Revision Commission convenes every 20 years, and this past year they came up with several items, and what they did is they bundled them usually into one question. And so in the case of Amendment 8, they bundled 3 different provisions that related to public education. One was term limits for school board members. One was codifying the delivery of civic education in the Constitution. And the third one, which was really the most insidious one, was basically allowing a statewide entity, whether it be DOE or somebody else, to create public schools in the various counties. And if you remember, 10 years ago, we were involved as plaintiffs in a case, and we won a case that overturned the Charter Schools Appeals Commission, where the DOE had an agency of the DOE could approve charter school applications for a school to be operated and opened in a county such as Pinellas. So we sued on the grounds under the Constitution that is taking away the local control and authority that is vested in public school boards. This amendment would have overturned that in the Constitution, but I think primarily because of the way they packaged the amendment and the way that they really gave the description a very generic description and not really identified and communicated to the public what they would be voting on, the Florida Supreme Court, by a vote of 4-3, struck that from the ballot. They basically upheld the trial court's ruling out of Leon County to strike that from the ballot. So that will not be on the ballot. Interestingly, the first 2 provisions of that amendment, in my opinion, really could be done through legislation. And so you might see the legislature or legislators propose bills that relate to term limits or civic literacy, but the last one needs to be done through a constitutional amendment. So I'm happy to report that will not be on the ballot, but you might see some bills that relate to that. As a segue, I would give you a quick update on our current lawsuit under HB 7069, which is legislation from 2017. As you know, the same Leon County trial court ruled against us in that case, where we were joined by a dozen other school districts challenging 6 different provisions of HB 7069. We have appealed that. We are not only trying to appeal it directly to the Florida Supreme Court, much like Amendment 8 was appealed, but obviously that was a much more time-sensitive issue. If we don't get directly to the Florida Supreme Court, we will be appealing it to the First District Court of Appeals, and you've already given me authority through a board vote to expend just a small amount of additional money to go forward and do that appeal, and I will certainly give you updates as that occurs. We have another meeting by phone this Thursday to discuss upcoming filings at the appellate level. If you have any questions at any time, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update as well. Excuse me, log rolling those 3 items together, certainly confused, and you had some persons in the community who may have supported civics, but they didn't support the other 2. And there was a lot of money put behind advertising and going out and doing some community outreach in support of that. But myself and others who also deserve the credit, let's not forget the League of Women Voters who took up that challenge and led it. So I was very excited to read the Supreme Court, the Florida Supreme Court's ruling on that. So I'm excited. School Board Member Long? Oh, for the next one? Okay. All right, so thank you so very much for your report. Sometimes you don't have one, but today you had a very good one. Thank you very much.
Okay, we like what you had to say.
Item, items introduced by the board, school board member, Ms. Long.
Yes, I have two items I'd like to bring up. The first one is safety. I have been getting a lot of phone calls from parents as well as teachers that our campuses are extremely securely locked, which is the whole purpose. But one of the complaints is the locking of the doors. And I'm going to be very honest, I was the board member who really pushed the locking of the doors because I taught in an open school. And when you're in a lockdown, you think you're cool and level-headed, but when you're out there trying to lock the door, afterwards you're praying, oh Lord, did I do that right? And so one of the things I asked for was the double lock, and Dr. Grego informed me that the district has put in for a grant, and we will know in December. Is that correct? Or due in December? Okay. And that the money is to purchase double lockings from the inside and out. I know as a teacher, that's interruptions when you have to let children in and out. But it's easier to prevent harm. One life lost is one life too many. And that, I know it's frustrating. I get it. We live in a different world. But our main goal is to keep all children, all employees safe. So please work with us. Continue to give us your concerns. We will bring them to the board. The other thing that I'm hearing a lot of, and I spoke with Dr. Grego, is about lesson plans. You know that the template is not a mandatory template. It is a one option of many. I have heard from especially elementary and middle. I have not heard from high school, so I'm talking elementary and middle school teachers that are spending, they're saying 8 to 10 hours with all the different things that have to be in a lesson plan. You have to put the 504, the IEP accommodations. There's a lot to a lesson plan, and it's supposed to be a guide. So I brought this up to Dr. Grego, and one of his suggestions was that we have some different small groups, forums where teachers will work with the elementary and the middle school director. If you'd like to jump in, Dr. Grego.
Yeah,
That's-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead and jump in and help me here.
No, based on our conversation, it seemed like that we needed to connect the dots a little bit.
Yes, we do.
And so my suggestion is that you had a group of teachers or some folks that I would love to get connected so that we can maybe have a better discussion with Dr. Hines and Dr. Rafalski and just say what it was. But this topic, as you shared with me, was covered and with Mr. Hendrick that when we discussed this and those are guides that a lot of teachers enjoy, but again the time length is concerning. So let's have that discussion and see if we can move forward and anything we can do to help improve.
Thank you.
Thank
That'd
you
be
for
great
your
the
suggestion,
teachers.
though.
Thank you.
That was it, ma'am? Okay, I thought I saw Ms. Lentino's light. It went away, but that's okay.
Well, I've been very busy since I've been back from my big trip to China. But anyway, Gulfport dedication for the playground equipment that we've been providing for our little kids at my former school that I was teaching first grade at. We hope that maybe sometime in the future we can get some canvases to cover the playground area, because the shading area of the trees are providing is not really adequate enough to have a covered, a covered area for the kids so their little heads don't get burned and they don't get all upset. The other area that I was having a good time at was at St. Petersburg City Hall. I met the Mayor Kreisman and we were stuffing the bus for the school materials. I also met with a civics group, and that's the Sons of the American Revolution. This is a recurring group of people that come and meet with me at St. Pete Beach. One gentleman is actually a former relative of his who signed the Declaration of Independence, Mr. Rogers. And
All right.
they're very interested in getting together to do some other civics lessons in the school. The gentleman I spoke to has a wonderful Thomas Jefferson costume, and he comes around and he talks just like Thomas Jefferson. You know, he just does what he does. You know, for his students and to get them engaged and get them interested in civics. I was listening to 88.5 on my radio today, and Ralph Nader was talking about civics, and he says, where has civics gone? You know, we've got to start telling children about how we vote and why we are voting, and let's not fall asleep at the wheel. And to segue on that, I saw Mr. Blum in the hallway the other day, and I mentioned to him about we wanted to get some of these books into our students' hands. There's some very good activities in there for them to do, word searches, lots of reading, identifications on maps and things. That would be very instrumental in getting them registered before they're of age, and then and also to have them really start focusing on what a political process is. I think that would be important. The same day I met with those gentlemen, I was at Gulf Beaches Elementary School meeting with the Solaria people, and very happy to hear that they have offered 5 complimentary registrations, and I was very encouraged to hear about that. So I thank Glory Matway for informing me of that on a phone call today. I also attended the education meeting for the NAACP, and it appears that the NAACP, and I also got an invitation from JWB. They invited about 20 people to the JWB meeting, and we all wanted to know, why aren't our children succeeding in early elementary schools? We've got lots of money out there, we've got lots of centers doing work, but why isn't the needle moving? So we had a lively discussion, and hopefully we're going to come back. There were a lot of people from the community there, and we hope to look forward to some gains in our young children's reading scores. Tiger Bay, there was a great meeting with Jeff Weaver. He was our speaker, and he was the gentleman that wrote a book about how Bernie Sanders won the election, which we know he didn't win the election, but but he was very instrumental in creating some new policies that Bernie was very supportive. So we were very glad to hear about that. He was a great speaker. And then also we're celebrating, Tiger Bay is a nonpartisan organization, and we are going to be celebrating a 40th anniversary on October 11th at USF St. Pete. There is a charge for the tickets, and we're encouraging everybody in the community to step up and hopefully purchase a ticket. Tickets are $75 a piece, includes dinner, and we're also having the mayor from New Orleans, Mr. Latimer. The mayor, Mr. Latimer, will be there as our lead speaker, and it will be a fundraiser for the Tiger Bay organization. Take Stock in Children. I was at Azalea Middle School again with my 7th grader now. She's in 7th grade, and having a nice lunch with her. So it's good to kick off this September month with being consistent and meeting with her every Monday at 1 o'clock. And this afternoon I attended a nice lunch at the Florida Retired Educators Association in the country club, Clearwater Country Club on Betty Lane. It was a great opportunity to meet some of the older teachers that were up there, and it was a nice introduction. It was really good to be there. It was a good time for everybody. Osceola Middle School, I visited out there. It was a good visit. We had a good conversation. People were expressing some of the concerns that they had. And Maximo Kindergarten, I visited Maximo. We had a good conversation with one of the teachers there. And Happy Workers, I'm proud to say that I will be at Happy Workers childcare 1 hour a week on Friday at 10 o'clock. And naturally, with the concern about all our water, National Estuaries Week will be from September 17th to the 22nd. And I think that's very important, that we need to focus on where our water quality is and make sure that we get the candidates that's going to do something for us in Tallahassee. And actually, when I was at Azalea Middle School, I was sitting in the waiting room, and a good friend of mine, he had these flyers that were in a very nice little display case. And this is to encourage after-school children that are in middle school or even high school for them to join the PAL organization, which is in Lealman. This provides lots of sports, life skills, and academics. And middle schools and high schools are encouraged to attend. And there is a teen after-school program for students grades 6 to 12. So it's a positive environment, and it's something that kids can get engaged in and participate in and have a new focus. That Azalea Middle School is now, as we know, is in the LSI program, and we hope to see some good gains out of that school. So that's my little report, and I was very happy to attend all the events that I did. And it is a privilege to serve my community.
Congrats, congrats. Ms. Lerner?
Just a comment about lesson plans. We did discuss it in the workshop, and it was clarified that the principal and his or her team decides what they're going to look like. And I think there was some discussion about understanding the need for lesson plans, but understanding that our teachers and educators have a lot more to do than lesson plans, and looking at some models of lesson plans that are good but don't take much time. They can be concise and get to the point. And we did have a discussion about that, and maybe we'll be able to see some models. Again, I understand the principal decides, but I think in this issue, having certain models that are very focused would be very positive. As far as civics education, I've had questions about that. And the misguided amendment that was struck down by the Supreme Court, thank goodness, did talk about civics education. Yes, it's important. But as you look at the standards for social studies in elementary school, we do have standards related to civics. We have civics in middle school. We have American government. We work closely with the supervisor of elections so that representatives come, I believe, to all our high schools and let the students know you can actually register. You don't have to be 18. You can register. I don't know if you have to be 16 or 17. 16? 17? 17, okay, and get it done. So it doesn't mean we can't always improve on what we're doing, but the idea that we're not doing civics education was misguided, but they thought that would be a good thing to have on this misguided amendment. I went to the active assailant training right here in the administration building, and I want to commend Chief Williams and Campus Police Officer Barbara Bauer gave it. And it was one of these trainings, I kind of wish we didn't have to have it, but we do, that it was 2 hours, and I almost felt I could have sat there longer. It was extremely well done, and I'll remember, hopefully I never ever have to use it, but I'll remember what I learned there. Our website is wonderful, and I'm not always on it as often as I should be. And it's much easier to find when you're looking for things. The search is good. And as I said previously, it's in about 50 or 60 languages, including Macedonian. I said that at another meeting when I met with some government representatives from Macedonia. When I showed them on my iPhone, Macedonian is on, you can translate all of it. But I've gotten more familiar with the YouTube videos. And that's something I'm going to use more often. Like the video today, you can search back videos from way back. Some of them are the short ones that we see, others are longer, because we have exemplary audiovisual people who are professionals who are doing excellent videos, and even the all-county concerts. I'm not always able to go, but I put music on when I'm just doing email and things, but you know, there's the whole county concert from different years on there. So I encourage people really to explore the website more, and I'm giving myself that advice also. So that's it.
I have just a couple. I'm going to make it really quick. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Carmisha Ware, assistant principal over at Azalea Middle School. Right before school started, she held like a parent boot camp, if you will, at the Childs Park YMCA, and it was outstanding. A number of parents came out just to get information on what they needed in order to be a strong supporter of their student when school started. So I want to say congrats for that. I had a chance to visit Clearwater Intermediate School. I got my hand tapped by the principal because I was supposed to be quiet in the math class, and I started yelling out the answers when they were on when they were doing square roots. So, but I was good in the social studies class and the language arts class. So I really enjoyed going out to visit there and meeting with staff. Very nice school. Panthers, I think, is their logo. I just want to announce that the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha have restarted their youth development program. That is an after-school mentoring tutorial component piece. We have added a civics piece. We got a grant from the city of St. Pete.
Oh,
I'm just
wonderful.
sharing. We got a grant from the city of St. Pete, $17,000 to provide civics in the component. So there will be several workshops, and we will be inviting in persons to speak from different components of government to talk with the students and also have them ask questions. It also provides ACT, SAT prep, things of that nature. So if you're interested, please see me. Also, excuse me, I got a phone call about the Homeless Coalition group asking about data sharing. I know Ms. Long goes to some of those meetings. As a matter of fact, I texted the person and said, Ms. Long goes to that meeting. And then they said, she's here. And I'm like, well, why are you asking me? She's there, you know. But yeah, but one of the things I wanted to share is we do have our navigators. Our navigators are out in our schools. We have a wonderful HEAT team that works with our homeless families. We have a number of supports and wraparound services. So any of our families that need some assistance, and the HEAT team's always touching base to see what's needed, they can contact them through that. So I'm just encouraging, you know, through this airing to please contact the navigator at your school, contact your principal if you're not sure who that is, or your guidance counselor or someone, contact the HEAT team, and they will be more than happy to assist. And like I said, I know Ms. Long goes to those meetings, and you're doing a very good job. On the list.
So, yes,
Mhm.
they are a part of it.
Right, you're doing a wonderful job, so thank you so much. Congrats to Donna Cecilia. She was acknowledged at the Juvenile Welfare Board meeting for her work. Every day counts, because if students are in school, you know, then they are learning. So congratulations. We're doing really well in those areas. We've already talked about the legislative committee meeting for FSBA that Ms. Long and I will be attending. And so I think we will represent the district very well. You can go on YouTube and look at the video of the Melrose Teacher Community Tour. I'll forward that to you guys, but I didn't realize that they were actually making a YouTube of it when I was doing the tour until I got the newspaper online and saw the link. I was like, oh my gosh. So to all of the Melrose teachers, everything you guys were doing is on the YouTube video. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything bad. There is also an opportunity for young ladies to become debutantes. I know we have the Big Debutante through the Sunshine organization within St. Petersburg, but then there's also another group for debutantes. So if you know of any young lady who may be interested in being presented, and debutantes just simply means that you're excelling it educationally, that you're well-rounded. It doesn't say that you're a straight A student, but that you're doing things to accelerate and to move yourself forward. And there are also scholarship opportunities that are still affiliated and associated with that. So not just for your tuition, but also book scholarships and things of that nature. So if you have any young ladies that are interested in being presented, please also see me. And those are all of the absolutely positively wonderful things that I have. It's good to be back. We had a full day today, and I think we are on point, and we're already entering into a lot of competition with these football teams from the various high schools. So I'm looking forward to that, and I am, especially Dr. Grego, I have to concur with you. I absolutely positively love the countywide graduations. Just to hear some of the stories, the grandparents and their grandchildren, or mothers and daughters, or fathers and sons. I love it. I love it. I love it. Persons aren't giving up. They're moving forward. Please know that help is just around the corner. All you have to do is let us know that you want the help, and we're going to find a way to make the provisions. So thank you so very much. Last but not least, I just want to give a shout out to Luke Williams and his officers. There was a parent who wasn't extremely happy. He wasn't necessarily following the rules, but he wasn't happy. But our officer at the front desk downstairs, many of you saw him if you came in through the front door this morning. I thought he did a wonderful job. Someone sent me the Facebook live video of it or whatever, and I thought he did a wonderful job in trying to de-escalate the situation and trying to make sure that he got the assistance or pointed them in the right direction of where they needed to go. So I know sometimes it can be difficult, but I just wanted to give that additional shout out and to say that if you desire to have lunch with your child or whatever, please, parents, note that we do have certain processes and protocols in place. And in all actuality, they always have been. You should always have checked into the front office before you go through that campus. So while it's not new, we're just now really enforcing it because some of us have been a little lax. Certain parents we see all the time, and so they're like a fixture at the school. But we can't do that anymore. So please, parents, just check in, sign in, show your identification. You have to be within line sight view of staff or be escorted if you want to go have lunch with your student or whatever. We don't want to hold any of that from you, but we just need to make sure that our safety and security measures are followed so that we don't have any break in service. And then we don't have to wonder, well, did we do it right? Did we not? We can say we always did it right. So parents, just help us out. Have lunch, please have lunch. Mentors have lunch, but just try to make sure you do that, and then we'll be good. Everything will be good. So that's it for me. Do we have anyone that has anything else? Okay. Do we have any board requests? I didn't forget you this time.
Yes, Madam Chair, I had two. First one is we will send a copy of the letter the superintendent's going to write to the legislators requesting the redistribution of the Guardian funds. We'll send a copy to all the board members. And the second is we'll set up teacher focus groups by level to have some discussions and listen to their concerns about the lesson plans. And hopefully as a result of that, then we will have some models that we can share with the board of some model lesson plans.
Okay, that'll be great. Okay, having no further business to come before the board, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. We will have our public comments at the end, and then we will convene for our evaluation afterwards. Ms. Ann?
Board members and Dr. Greger, we have 13 speakers signed up this evening. Our first two are Brant Robinson and Remy Scott.
Good evening, everybody. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Grego, staff. I also want to make sure I reference Clint Herbeck. He's one of the finest teachers and coaches I've ever had the privilege of working with at Dunedin High School, and I always forget to say that, Clint, so thanks so much for everything you do. My name is Brant Robinson. I teach at Dunedin High School. I'm a social studies teacher, and you guys know that I love what I do. I love public education, and as always, I'm honored to be here with you guys tonight. I appreciate your commitment to everything that we try to do together collaboratively. I also want to mention that I was really moved tonight when I was here with the students of Lakewood High School. I graduated from Lakewood High School in 1987, and so I was really moved because it just reminded me of, you know, what was modeled for me in the commitment to public education. As you know, I'm the co-chair of the Human and Civil Rights Committee for the PCTA, and I mentioned in every meeting we're going to address you guys about what we started 1 year ago this month. We started looking into restorative practices. We are very moved by the potential of restorative practices. We know it's a major paradigm shift, and we know we've just started this journey. Last month, we assessed our members about how the initial training went. As you know, there are 12 hours of initial training broken into 2 days. We've all now done the first day. I don't think any school has done day 2 yet. But at Dunedin High School, we had 3 licensed trainers. We're off to a great start. We've done this with Fidelity, so the proof is there. This can work, and if we work collaboratively together, we can do great things for young people and really transform communities. But the data that we found from our members had some challenges and had some, I think, cautions. Again, it's not scientific, but at least half of the schools that we surveyed did not do the trainings with Fidelity. And again, we were all strapped and saddled with issues about having the licensed number of trainers, but there were some schools that had 80, 90, 100 teachers in the circles. Now, what does that tell us? It means that it's possible some of our colleagues might not have had the quality training that we would, strive for. And all that means is that we need to be responsive, and we're not here to be critical, we're here to be collaborative. But I had a couple of suggestions, and one is, as we move forward, not only do we need to be mindful of having more trainers train, as I said last time, not only do we need to have makeup sessions, and Pat Wright has done a wonderful job of making sure that PCTA and our licensed trainers are involved in the process, but perhaps we can also get with IRP so we can develop some really hands-on targeted focus kind of ongoing trainings, the kind of professional development that's really responsive to people's needs as they take on new challenges and new risks and hopefully have successes when they do it. The other thing is just making sure that this year we make a commitment that we're not being evaluative as we walk through classrooms, that we need to be supportive and collaborative. And then the last thing I'll say is that there's an old saying in restorative practices that it's not just another thing to add to your plate, it is the plate. So we have to be mindful that everything we do on campuses is ultimately with restorative practices in mind. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Is Remy Scott present? Our next 2 speakers are Mike Gandolfo and Nancy Velarde.
Good evening again. Education is a fundamental American value. Voters in Pinellas have supported public education and believed it to be their obligation to the future of our great country. This year, 10 other counties joined Pinellas in raising their own taxes in order to support their schools. Not every politician, every politician, even those who have voted to harm us in the past, swear they are public education friendly. To prove it, they want to raise teacher pay. Florida is 4,000 teachers short because of horrible legislation, which has made working conditions deplorable for teachers. Now they want to fix it with a $50,000 starting salary. Imagine the ton of work and problems as veteran teachers watch newbies enter at a salary that took them almost 20 years to earn. This is, of course, a horrible idea, but very much in line with a legislature that gives bonus money to teachers based on SAT scores. The answer is to fund public education correctly and allow employee unions and districts to negotiate fair and equitable wages. However, pay is not the top motivation for educators, nor is it the second nor the third. Teachers go into the profession with high hopes of job satisfaction and fulfillment that comes from making the difference in children's lives. Too many educators have had their hopes and dreams crushed after a short time in a profession that was not what they anticipated. They became demoralized, beaten, and defeated because they are set up for failure and made to feel like they can never get all that is required of them accomplished. Meanwhile, their family life suffers, their health suffers, and their self-esteem suffers. Administration is quick to point to data that says this strategy, this program, these meetings will help kids move forward. But for every piece of data they can produce, I can produce data that says that happy employees are more productive and happy kids are more willing to learn. Time is our enemy. Time is not enough. There is not enough time in a day to get everything done. It is time to back up and prioritize what is important. Demanding a 16-page lesson plan from a TZ zone school teacher while taking away their time to plan it means that something suffers. Not the plan, of course, but the teacher and ultimately the kids. But hey, we can show the state that we can produce one heck of a lesson plan. For years, we have been encroaching on teacher planning time. Until we can afford to extend the day, let's spend our time doing the basics better than anyone else. instead of trying to do everything, including things that have more moving parts than plans for a space shuttle launch. And let's give our teachers and administrators the gift of time. In other words, just let us teach. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here yet again at the beginning of another school year to unfortunately share that things become worse each year for us, despite the repeated pleas of the teachers who come before you. We appeal to those of you who have some control over our working conditions, and we receive sympathetic nods and smiles, but no action. While we appreciate the sympathy, we need your help. If I was simply sympathetic to the fact that Johnny cannot read, but took no action to attempt to resolve the issue, I would be out of a job. But I get Johnny to improve his reading, along with all or most of his classmates, despite the fact that each year the hoops I have to jump through are more plentiful, higher, and more ridiculous. Each year, we are asked to submit lesson plans, plans that become more and more specifically complex for no apparent reason. Weekly, monthly, whatever the whim of the moment happens to be. The bottom line is, if you walk into a teacher's classroom and ask to see a lesson plan and they have none, it is reasonable to ask that teacher to supply lesson plans for a reasonable amount of time until you are sure they are once again writing plans. If a teacher is brand new, it makes sense to see those plans on a regular basis to ascertain the quality of the plan. Every other circumstance is demeaning and insulting. It is insinuating that we are not doing our jobs when you ask for proof constantly that we are. If you hire professionals, trust in your professionals. I don't see the point of wasting precious minutes of my day making copies or sending copies of my plans that are written to my administrators to be shoved into an arbitrary file, online or off, never to be looked at again, and then asked to submit those very same plans again the following year, with the little tweaks that might have happened, when you can come in and see them anytime. Certainly not when I have Johnny and his 175 classmates waiting to have their skills honed, their essays read, their analysis evaluated, and their grades entered. This is only one of the many new additional demands placed on the already overburdened educators' back. Only one of the results of the last time we came and begged for some relief. We are attracting the best and brightest, but we can't hold them. Please, hear us. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Janet Cunningham and Ann Preyes.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Grego, my name is Janet Cunningham, and I teach at Calvin Hunsinger ESE Center. I'm here tonight to speak on an unusual circumstance that I experienced at our center this school year. On Wednesday, August 8th, we were informed in the afternoon that our school times for our students had changed. They were actually going to be coming to school and arriving before our staff hours were to start. That was a problem because the staff members had already determined what their times would be for the year, had gotten their childcare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, 48 hours before that final weekend, our staff pulled together to determine a way to meet the demands. Why were the staff hours changed? Transportation. Okay? The buses were coming in before the staff were to be there. Administration worked with the teachers in a group to determine a way to best meet the needs of the students, because that's what we do at my center, which I love. But it put us as teachers working an additional 20 minutes with direct contact time with our students. Doesn't seem like much, until you add up that 20 minutes times 5, which is 100 minutes. Oh, and yeah, the fact we don't eat until after school's over because we spend our entire day with our EBD, school-based mental health students, because that's what they need. We are there for the kids. The teachers and the administrators worked out the plan. But now our schedule runs like this. We get off at 1:20 as teachers. From 1:20 to 1:50 is our lunchtime. 1:50 to 2:20 is our planning and or meeting times. There's really no in between moving from one point to another. There's no downtime, there's no nothing. Where I've heard talks of issues about cutting planning time, I want to throw in there what we do at centers. We do our IEPs. Those of my colleagues who've been in the ESE world, you recognize that. My IEPs aren't 1 hour, they aren't 2 hours, they're 254 on the matrix, which, by the way, all ESE teachers have to take this year for training if they haven't done it before. We at Calvin, we did it last year. We're good. My IEPs take about 8 hours apiece to write. They are done with fidelity, they are done well, meeting the individual needs of each student. Our lesson plans, you heard that from Ms. Velarde, they're absurd, okay? We do it all. I want the board to recognize there are teachers out there really, really working hard for the students. But please, as board members, recognize when things change. Please come to the teachers and give a little bit of credence to the administrators and the teachers who've worked to do the best for the students. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Ann Preuss. I'm an elementary ESOL teacher. I've taught for 37 years. At my father's funeral, my brother, who wrote his eulogy, said my father had to fly. I have to teach. I've stayed in the classroom for 37 years because, to be very honest, I like kids better than most adults. They are honest, amazing, tell it like it is human beings, and this may come as a complete surprise to some of you, but they come in all sizes, shapes, and desires. And in today's society, many people seem to have divided the country into them and us. Them being bad, us being good. I don't feel that way. In the words of a very courageous young woman, I am human. I live in a planet called Earth with a whole bunch of other humans. I am human. I teach humans. I've always taught in Title I schools. I know the challenges. I know babies that come in, some of my second graders can't even read on a kindergarten level. I know that, and that's what I work with. I move them as far as I can, as quick as I can. There's also been a lot of talk tonight about lesson plans. When my colleagues come to me sobbing because Sunday has been spent on lesson plans that are 48 pages long and they're told they're missing something in them, I can't put down the questions I'm going to ask until I teach the lesson and find out who knows it and who doesn't know it and what they know and what they don't know, and then I can make the questions asked. I will do higher level questions. I will move my children as far as they can go because teaching is my passion. My colleagues, as gifted as they are, tell me daily they are leaving. They are born teachers. We are losing them. 48 pages of lesson plans for a week? I have downloaded more information, more trainings, more things, schedules I'm supposed to do than the forests that burned in California. So my plea, along with my colleagues, is please, you have wonderful plans, but you change them so often, it feels like I'm changing my clothes daily. We need to accept some of the things and let us work them through. As Nancy said, we're professionals. Let us teach. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Lorena Grizzle and Lori Moore.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Greg on staff. I am going to talk about Hispanic students, but I did want to talk first about co-teaching since it was brought up because I am a co-teacher in math for 4 periods a day. And I pull small groups aside in that room, but now that we've gone up to 30 kids in a room or higher, I can't get to everybody that I need to. And the high-performing students are doing well. The kids I'm helping, they're doing well. And there's this group in the middle, they're falling through the cracks when we decided to go to bigger core classes. Biology, every class has over 30. That's a required core class. English, at my school, it's too many. We don't even have enough chairs in the room sometimes. I have to go find a chair. So that's a problem, but I'll let you know more how that's working out because I know that it's set now, but just letting you know. I wanted to talk to you about a family that came to me. It's somebody I know from my old neighborhood, and I taught their daughter an ESE class. The family does not speak English, but they've been here for about 3 years. The dad works hard, grandma lives with them. It's a multi-generational family. And I saw them one day, they called my son, had me come down, and the daughter was crying, she's translating for me. One of the other girls had picked up a phone on their way out of school. They were accused by the principal of stealing it, even though she brought it to school and said, look, I found this phone. Whose is it? It turned out to be a teacher's. And they called them in a meeting right away and accused the girl of stealing the phone. And they asked if they could take a video of it. Apparently they got permission, which was rescinded later. But I saw the video on the phone, and the principal kept saying, speak English, over and over again, in just a horrible tone. They don't speak English. Okay. They asked what to do. I said, well, don't go in there without any help. I recommended that they don't sign any papers because they don't know what they're signing. They went back, apparently they got a translator, but they were also asked to sign a paper they didn't understand. And the father got upset. He said he's going to call a reporter, and all of a sudden they apologized, said that's okay, nothing's going to happen, and that was the end of the meeting. But this was a family that's very well known in the community. Now the entire community, because I know them, I was married to a Puerto Rican family for years. We share a lot of things together. We boarded our houses together in Irma. And they're asked for my help. They've asked me to help represent their community now. And I said, I can't get between the school board and you. But the grandmother is no longer allowed to come to school and eat lunch with them. The daughter's not allowed in STEM class. And this is not the daughter who picked up the phone. But they're saying the classes are full. So my concern is that the Hispanic community is not giving the same treatment. So I would like to have some input on that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am a teacher at Osceola Middle. My name is Lori Moore. And on August 31st, our science classrooms were visited for a county-ism walkthrough. During that walkthrough, our science supervisor saw textbooks, the fusion textbooks from last year, still sitting on our desks, and we had been using them as a supplemental resource. He had told our administration, with the agreement of the district supervisors, that those books should be removed from our school by the end of the day. The APs and the principals started sweeping the classrooms before the end of the day, removing materials from the teachers who were actually using them. This was between 6th and 7th period. A teacher was not able to finish their lesson 7th period because they did not have the books or the resources. They then continued to search after school after the teachers had left. The textbook consumables and the fusion books ended up being put into the recycling bin at our school. The hardbound out of adoption books were put on a flatbed and locked away. At this point, we only have the discovery book. We only have 15 per class. We have 30 kids in our classrooms. The class set of fusion books that we were trying to keep back would have been helpful to bridge the gap between the new books and our learning curve on the discovery books. and also to help cover some of the standards that are not in the Discovery books yet. The Discovery books are at a higher reading level. If you look, the Discovery books are a lot of print, not very many pictures like the Fusion books. Our L25s have a very hard time with books that don't have pictures. At this point, we are trying to figure out a means to help our students. And without resources that we've been continuously told are resources and should still be used, we now have to use the Discovery books completely. At this point, it is not in the best interest of our L25 students. Our science scores at Osceola Middle went up 7 points last year. This year, we're a bit concerned because we don't have the resources we need. Discovery says they have a leveled reader for the L25 students, but that's only if you do it by classroom. You cannot pick and choose your students to get the L25 or lower level reading materials. I would like to address the board and ask what is expected of us when we have our resources taken away from us after school hours. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Haley Bochesney and Molly Dashney.
Good evening. My name is Molly Dashney, and I'm a student at Pinellas Park High School. Each morning, I go to school with the intention to receive a quality education, and I have experienced unjust treatment as we undergo as students. I'm compelled to again bring light upon just a few aspects of the corruption within our system. It is unfair that our district deliberately disregards the class size amendment, which is clearly written in the Florida Constitution. Yes, there are loopholes around it, but if we are a fair and just district, shouldn't we be able to abide by an amendment to cap classes at 25 students? It is pitiful that our district would rather pay a fine than comply with law. Our district throws money around for trivial software and standardized testing, yet neglects to spend money where it matters most. To put into perspective, my AP biology class has 43 students in it. 43. If our teacher wanted to give us individual feedback, he would have barely a minute, 64 seconds to be exact per student. We go to school to learn, but how are we supposed to when we are packed into classrooms like sardines? We are not animals being stuffed with metaphorical food for thought. We are young students who deserve proper class sizes and a fair education. There was a topic of the importance of civics classes earlier. My dual enrollment American National Government class doesn't even have enough textbooks for everyone to have the same edition. And as I expand upon the unfair treatment to students, I ask that you remember our teachers. Our teachers are human. They are professionals. And they didn't go to college and earn a degree to run scantrons through a machine or have their jobs outsourced to inadequate companies like RightScore. Here's an idea. Maybe the district should actually stop paying thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to these companies and actually fund our teacher scarcity. We talked about the director for strategic planning, school improvements, action goals, action plans. The action should start by making sure we have appropriate class sizes. I would finally like to talk about a form that I received from Pinellas County Schools in acknowledgement of my advanced placement exams. It reads, "We want you to be committed to being successful in this course and to understand your commitment includes taking the AP exam." So I would like to ask, when will the school board be committed to giving us the proper materials and class sizes that we need and deserve in order to be successful? May I give a document to be distributed to the board? Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Fadala Nguyen and Christopher Woodman.
Hello, my name is Fadala Nguyen, and I am a senior at Pinellas Park High School. I am here due to my concerns regarding the expanding class sizes at my school. To begin, I would like to acknowledge the fact that this class size amendment only applies to core classes. Yet that amendment does not apply to courses such as AP US History, AP Language, and AP Literature. Despite the fact that US History is a required social studies class and AP Lang and Literature are counted as a required English 4 and 5. My school has had a reduction in the amount of teachers available at the school. In result, our class sizes continue to grow. To add to that is the small classrooms and crowded spaces that prevent students from seeing that one small smartboard in the middle of the room. With that is also the inadequate number of supplies and furnitures for both students and our teachers. You are unaware of the difficulties of having over 30 students in a classroom. For instance, my dual enrollment American government class consists of 34 students. I would like to inform you that we do not have enough textbooks in that class. This resulted with a few students having to use outdated textbooks for this year. My AP macroeconomics class consists of over 30 students. My AP psychology class consists of 35 students. We do not have enough seats in there. Students had to find their own chairs to place at the edge of the table that were already occupied by other students. More students continue to join the class, yet no seats are being added. There are other classes that suffered through this. We can't see the board because the class is so packed. The computers are broken and they won't charge. We open ripped and missing pages of textbooks. We sit on broken, sharp chairs. We can't eat lunch because by the time you get in line and get out, the bell has rung, signaling us to our next class. And until you give us adequate supplies and reasonable class sizes, I cannot be satisfied with Pinellas County's education system. You say you set us up for success, but how can we be successful if you only set us up for failure? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Woodman. I am a student at Pinellas Park High School. I spoke to the Pinellas County School Board last year about the flagrant violations of the class size amendment within this county. I have seen no action by this board to mend this violation. This is both unethical and immoral. It cannot be the position of this board that students are expected to get an education in AP classes with more than 30 students in the class. This is a violation of our rights as students. I understand that numerous legal loopholes are employed to avoid complying with the class size amendment. These loopholes are based in the Florida legislature's interpretation of the Constitution. The Florida legislature's interpretation of the class size amendment is both unimportant and unconstitutional. According to the Florida Bar Journal in the 1992 Florida Supreme Court case, Locke v. Hawks, the power of interpreting the Florida Constitution solely falls in the hands of the state Supreme Court, not in the hands of the Florida legislature, and not in the hands of the Pinellas County School Board. Is the school board simply willing to be blindly complicit in the Florida legislature's violation of the rights of students? The only reason why I can see that this has continued to be tolerated is that this matter has not yet been taken to court. It is my understanding and my hope, it was my understanding and my hope that the school board advocates for the interests of students, but this has shown to be blatantly false. As the school board continues to deny students their state constitutional rights, if the students of Pinellas County cannot trust the school board to advocate for us, we must advocate for ourselves. We will not be silent, and we will not tolerate complicity. Thank you.
Our final speaker this evening is Laurel Hiles.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Laurel Hiles, and I am a senior at Pinellas Park High School. I would like to begin with the fact that I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that this school board has so little faith in our education to believe that there was no way that I or anyone else at my school who spoke at the last board meeting that we were at in 2008 were capable of writing our own speeches regarding teacher unit transfers. I guess considering that our principal last year threatened to lock students out for planning a walkout memory for the Parkland victims and refused to listen to me, my peers, or my parents about teacher bullying in classrooms, it seems pretty clear that student voices are not something that the administration at Pinellas Park High School or the Pinellas County School Board want to hear. My peers have been discussing class sizes with you. Class sizes that are so massive that there's no walking room between desks, and we don't even have enough textbooks for an entire class. I understand that this concern for the school board is a financial one, to which is understandable. But I question where the motives are when $900,000 is spent moving the school start time up 15 minutes. I question the integrity of the school board when hundreds of thousands of dollars each year are spent on RightScore. RightScore, another method of standardized testing that is not proven to be effective, instead of allocating time and trust to our teachers, professionals you have hired, instead of these standardized tests that are not helping students learn or develop or be able to speak in front of a board. If the school board actually had faith in our education, maybe the focus would be on how we can help students and teachers in the classroom instead of how we can get test scores up. If the school board really cared about teachers and class sizes and about education, then you wouldn't mind paying for it and certainly not hearing about it. Thank you.
Is that the
We
last
have
speaker?
another speaker who signed up prior to her completing. David, is it Lambertson? Lambertson.
Hello, I'm David Lambertson, and I'm the parent of my daughter, Lori Lambertson, who is an 11th grader at Eastlake High School. We moved from Texas to Pinellas County a little over a year ago, and my daughter has really been subject at Eastlake High School to psychological distress, social exclusion, even physical abuse. Because Eastlake High School is rated as such a high and A-grade school in Pinellas County, I encouraged her to stay there until actions made by a faculty member over the summer convinced me otherwise. I put in a special transfer request for my daughter. We were trying to keep everything very low-key. We just did not think that the environment, which we deem as hostile at Eastlake High School, has been a positive influence on my daughter. We were misled by special student assessments. I thought that they were attempting to help us, and they would give me dates such as to check back with them with regards to a transfer from my daughter, which I would communicate with my daughter because I try to keep that level of communication very open. What I would say is after a number of these dates were allowed to expire, we were told that she could not transfer and that she would have to stay in Eastlake High School, where she has been subject to bullying. I have attempted to contact associate supervisors. I have talked in person and over the phone with the principal at Eastlake High School. I have talked with the bully prevention specialist. A report has been filed for bullying. We didn't want any of this. All that we wanted to do was to have my daughter in a school that she could actually do well in, that's actually closer to where we live. We live in Palm Harbor. Eastlake is further. I offered to provide transportation. I just wanted my daughter to do well again. My daughter has done well up until Pinellas County, and I've talked to Mr. Kennedy before. I believe that he's probably trying to help us right now, but the issue that I'm having right now, and the reason why I'm here, is this is delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed, to the point that my daughter, she cries every day before school. She cries every day when she's come home from school. Mr. Kennedy knows that my daughter has written a note to me expressing her desire to kill herself. This is not my daughter.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask that, because we're kind of getting a little bit into something, so I'm gonna ask her, because your 3 minutes are up. I'm not saying that your issue is not important, but I am gonna ask that, Mr. Kennedy, if you could please speak with him, because, and Mr. Bill Lawrence is still here from student assignment. If they can speak with you in regards to your request for transferring, and see what we can do to go ahead and effectuate that and make that happen. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Grego, if you don't mind, I know normally we don't do a back and forth, I'm not trying to do that, but can you follow up on the textbook situation and whatnot at Pinellas Park High School, because school has, and Osceola Middle, because school is, just gotten started, and
I think it was also Osceola High School.
no, Osceola Middle. Osceola Middle. Can you
Science,
follow up? Yeah.
Absolutely.
On those?
I've taken some notes, and I'll
Yeah,
follow up
the
on-
use of the
on
infusion book, along with or in addition to, and then the concerns at Pinellas Park High School. I just want to correct something. Thank you very much, students, for coming forward. I appreciate you. You spoke eloquently, and I really appreciate it. I just want to correct something. We did not spend the $900,000 as related to moving the start time. Mr. Herbig and staff were able to work things out and readjust those schedules so that we didn't have to realize that additional expenditure. But I do appreciate your comments, and I am asking staff if they can, asking Dr. Grego if he can follow up on that, because we certainly want our students to have a good education and to have the materials that they need in order to get that education. I'm going to call on Dr. Grego and then you, Linda, because I think he wants to address something.
I feel inclined to make a couple of statements. First of all, thank you very much to the students who are here. Your statements about the board not caring about education, though, need to be addressed. This board that sits around me has actively worked to increase the AP enrollment in all of your schools, including Pinellas Park High School, by over 50% in the last 5 years. You might be one of those 50%, I don't know. But it is unbelievable, the growth that we've had in college-level classes in our school district. And it was stated before by Mrs. Dull, we've had over about 52% of students who receive a qualifying score. That means about $12.5 million go into the pockets of your parents, and by the way, paid for entirely by our school board. People don't recognize or realize this, but the state of Florida pays for all of the AP exams, which is an unbelievable investment in youth, because very few states afford the payment of AP exams. Most all other states, the student and parent pays the AP exams. In this district, our school board funds the PSAT in 8th, 9th grade to demonstrate AP potential. We fund the PSAT free of charge to each and every 9th grader. We fund the PSAT in 10th grade to promote college readiness. And we do it for about 30% or 40% of students, any student on free and reduced lunch. That's an investment. In addition to that, we provide the in-school time for the SAT and ACT free of charge to each and every student to level the playing field. You're in a school district that is investing heavily into students, especially as you spoke about being in an AP class. The good news is that we've had about 600 to 800 more students returning back to our high schools in our community, which is positive because they're attracted to our schools. The other part of that news is that many of those students are going into dual enrollment in higher level college classes. You're right, the college level AP classes are not placed under the class size amendment because they're college level classes. And whether you could debate that legally, it sounds like we have some budding attorneys, and I encourage you to do that. But the reality of it is that they're excluded from the class size. Whether you agree or disagree with that is a different conversation. But to address the board and say that they're not listening or they're not caring about that, they have made a tremendous investment in AP and dual enrollment classes. So one of the things that did bother me as I listened is the need for textbooks. As we increase that 50%, we must have the resources, and I thank you for bringing that attention. And I will, tomorrow with staff, certainly verify that, and if we need to purchase or work on additional resources or textbooks, we absolutely will do that. We should have desks, we should have chairs, and I certainly will check with your principal tomorrow. But I can assure you that your principal cares at Pinellas Park High School, and I would encourage you to continue to formulate that relationship with the student body there. You're student leaders, you're sitting in college level classes, and I would encourage you to certainly be that leader that I know you're capable of being. Now, we didn't spend $900,000 to move the bell time. The $900,000, if you read it, it was the estimate of the routes of the entire school district. It wasn't for the high school move of the bell time. It ended up as if you followed it, that in essence we reduced the amount of routes in this district and we were cost neutral with about 452 routes. And so that was kudos to our transportation department. So I thank you for your application of that, but I think it speaks volumes to really becoming well-informed in terms of the topics so. You know, the good news is that we could either, and the other part of it is that every time we split an AP class, we have to have a certified AP teacher. And so do you want 2 AP classes at 20 or 23 or 24, or do you want one with an outstanding trained teacher at 32? We checked one of the class sizes, said someone said 40, and I had staff checking as we were even working. It's at 32 and 35. I wish it could be at 28, and we'll continue, but we don't want students to be exiting from those classrooms. That's quite an honor and also a privilege to be sitting in those AP classes, and especially when it's completely paid for by this board. So thank you very much for being here.
Ms. Lerner? Ms. Lerner?
Okay, I want to thank the teachers and the students for being here, and you spoke up. I could hear every word each one of you said. We are not flagrantly disregarding the class size amendment. Mr. Kopersky, there's a certain definition of core classes. I think what's been brought up is, and we've talked about it before at board meetings and workshops, we have to look at these class sizes that may be around the district that we need to look at. And I think Dr. Grego gave a good example about sometimes we want to have as many students take a particular course. So it might be larger than any of us would like. Textbooks, I think we absolutely are going to be looking into it. But Mr. Kopersky, just talking about the class size amendment, then I'm going to have one other thing to say.
No, in fact, I think we are judged every
Right.
year on whether we're in compliance with class size, and we are. I took the comments to be relating to more of the statewide policy, the legislature's authority, their interpretation of the Constitution, and I believe that one of the students was correct in saying that is something that might have to be determined by the Florida Supreme Court, just like some of these other cases make their way up there. So no, we are not. We're not flagrantly in violation. We're not in violation at all.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and so I just, one other comment is, I hope these students are in the Criminal Justice Academy. If they are not, and they're not on the mock trial team, they need to be.
Just one other thing. The board member takes all the feedback seriously. One of the things is we don't generally talk during presentations. And I'm not saying we don't have ways we absolutely need to improve. But I will also say the state legislature and governor presently have not given us adequate funds. And everyone needs to vote. And look at who you're voting for. We are trying to do the best we can with limited funds, to have good teacher salaries, benefits, class size, materials. I think we're doing well. Do we have to look at some situations that need to be changed? Yes, we do. But I will put more of the responsibility right now on the legislature and governor. And we all need to be sure we vote, and vote for people not who say we're for education, but within their platform specifically let it be known what they're going to do. So get people out to vote. But thank you all for being here.
Just one thing I wanted to clarify regarding the class size amendment. It came up with one of the speakers tonight, and I've heard this several times recently. It was said that the school district said they would rather pay the fine than comply with class size. And we have never said that, nor have we ever discussed doing that, nor have we ever paid a fine. We have always complied with class size. And we may all have our differences in how the Constitution's interpreted, and I agree with you on some of that. But the point is, we will not pay the fine. We will comply in accordance with what they've told us we can do right now. And just want you to know, we're not paying a fine, and we're not in violation of class size, nor have we said we would rather do that. That's never come up from the superintendent or board. So just to clarify that position. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you all so very much for attending our meeting on today. School board members, we will have our evaluation, and again to the students, thank you so very much for coming and expressing yourself today. Meeting adjourned.
Signature, Neil, please, Mr. President.